This is the Giraffes Don't Eat Steak podcast, a show that brings you marketing stories, tips, hints, and much more. A treat for those who want to succeed in business or marketers who just want to learn. Hello, Alex.
Good morning, good afternoon. How are you doing?
I am good. I'm good. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. I'm very well.
Fantastic. I have brought us another guest today, my fabulous friend Ray, who is the queen of events. Hi,
Um,
Ray.
Hi,
hello,
Ray.
hello, Alex and Erica. Thank you for having me.
So I should just probably clear this up. Your name is Raymonda, but you like being called Ray.
I do indeed, yes.
Okay, good. Just making sure I got that right. So, Ray, tell Alex or our listeners a little bit about yourself.
So I'm an event marketeer and I work with businesses to help streamline their events to make more business sense out of their events. So that's marketing strategy, planning, communications, any kind of engagement points that they might have with their audience. And more importantly, I suppose getting bums on seats as well.
Mhm.
And online and offline events, Ray?
Absolutely, yes, virtual and in person.
Fantastic.
And the virtual side of it kicked up during and after COVID. What was it like before that?
There was no virtual whatsoever. I think
Yeah.
there were some in the US, but certainly not where I'm based in the UK. Um, we didn't have that many virtual things at all, so it was a very big learning, very steep
Mm.
learning curve we had.
Yeah, absolutely.
And where are we now, Ray? What's the split? Or I hear different things. I hear people saying online is dead. Everyone wants to go face to face. I hear people saying, nope, I'm never leaving the house again. Where are we now in the world of events?
Oh, that's such a great question. I'd say we're kind of in a really interesting phase at the moment. So there's definitely a lot more in-person things. People love getting together, but virtual events are not gone and they're definitely not dead. There is a purpose for them, things like webinars, things like kind of intimate workshop things, maybe global team get-togethers, and things that's still being served with virtual events.
Absolutely. And what I'm finding, and maybe this is just me because I don't like leaving my house, but for me, there is a whole step up needed for face to face in terms of the experience. It really has to be worth my while for the travel, the cost, the time. Like it's got to be worth my while, or else I'm not going. Is that common or am I odd?
No, you are totally not odd. Absolutely. There's definitely has to be like gone are the days where you used to send an invite, or I maybe used to send an invite to say, let's meet for a drink, there's free food and free drink in this location. And people used to come out because they would like to socialize and just get together. But that is not the case anymore, really. You have to really put out the value of the event, what's the purpose? Why should I come? Why should I book on? And really build out that value for the attendees.
But is that an expectation that has developed post-COVID? I mean, that's a question for both, actually. I mean, if that was the same for you, Eric, if you already had that before, like to get you out of the house anyway, regardless of whether virtual events was a thing or not, and or has it changed, or has it since COVID?
Well, let's ask Ray first, and then I'll give my experience. Do you think it's changed pre and post COVID?
So my personal experience, yes, I'd say it changed. I think a lot of people say, well, can we just do a Zoom or can we just do this virtually? There's a lot of things that need to come into play now, especially with people who are maybe not used to traveling or commuting as much as well. So there's lots of things that you need to put in place with organizing childcare and pets and anything else that you might have in your life usually to be able to just up and go. So I think it has definitely changed because our lifestyles have changed. With getting a pet or growing a family or another commitment of some sort that you might have settled for when you're working from home. So yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. And I think for me, before COVID, I didn't even think there was an alternative. Like in my head, networking had to be face to face. So therefore, if I wanted to network, if I wanted to grow my business, if I wanted to meet people, I had to go face to face. So that was the decision. And so I forced myself and I went, right? Where now I've got choices and I can decide, right? I can go, well, that group does online only, and that, you know, and they've got a great speaker, so I'm learning something, and it's got nice people, so I can meet them. Okay, I'll stick to them. Where, okay, this is a commute, I need to go, and the speaker's not so great anyway, and so I'm going to spend the whole day there and be bored. Maybe not, right? So I think it's the fact that as consumers, we all have choices now, right? If you look hard enough, you'll find an online one that you can go to. If you look hard enough, you'll find a local one that's 5 minutes down the road instead of a trek all the way to London, right? So it's just you've got more choice, I think. The other thing I was thinking about is working patterns have changed. A lot of depending on who you want at that event. It's about thinking. So, for example, and I'm going to talk insurance because that I know well. If you want insurance people, for example, don't have your event on a Friday, they don't go into the office on a Friday, right? Whereas if you have it on a Wednesday or Thursday, they usually go into the office on a Wednesday and Thursday. And so having your event in London where they'll leave work and go to your event, that makes sense because they're more likely to come. Whereas if you have it on a Friday where they actually have to then commute and instead of it's, oh, I'm at work anyway, so I may as well pop in and see what it's like. I think it's about understanding your audience, which Alex, we always come down to, right? Understanding your audience and going, right, how do I remove all the paths of resistance? How do I make this as easy as possible for them to pitch up, right? Like needs to be easy. And I'm sure, Ray, you work with that across the entire process, right? How do I do that from sign up to, reminders, to pitch up, to giving feedback at the end, to whatever it is. It's not just free food and drink anymore. It's not enough to make you leave your warm, comfortable home and take a train, right?
Absolutely. You're spot on there, Erica.
Has the frequency changed of events? Are we having more events now because we have the additional option of online and perhaps they can be set up with less cost? It's more agile. You can get people are more readily available. Or do you think the net number of events has kind of stayed the same?
I think the net number of events is very similar to pre-COVID level now. It's definitely properly back to that level. It's just that we, as Erica said, have a lot more choice with it, whether it's online, whether it's in person, or maybe even hybrid. So you can choose either or. So yeah, so there's a lot more options for you to fit in or find what fits your lifestyle and your day to day.
Okay. What's the when somebody comes to you and says, I want to do an event, what's your top three questions that you ask someone about the event?
So the first one is usually around how big the event that they're planning, that they want, where and who for, and then there's lots more questions after that
Of
in
course,
terms
of
of
course, of course.
figuring out
Just
exactly
like
who
just trying to
it's
wonder
for.
trying to understand what is the most important thing as an event planner to understand for you. If there were only three things you could know, what would they be?
So so I love working in threes personally, but there is actually four.
Go before.
Four. Give me four then.
It's the what, where, how, and who.
Okay,
There's,
love it.
there's sometimes a why as well. That's where the value bring comes out. So,
Okay.
Okay. Talk to us about those four. What is the what?
so the what is the event. What is it? How it's going to be structured? What sort of format, style? How big? what's the kind of goal for the company for running that, what is the drive for holding it. The where is obviously the location. Is that where the audience is? Is that, what's that particular piece is meeting? Um, then the who is diving into the audience that the event is for, really getting clear. I know you guys work a lot on that side of things. So really getting clear who that's for, thinking about the obstacles, potentially the barriers, the resistance elements, for those particular people, where we're going to find them, how, in terms of how we're going to deliver the event. So whether it's virtual, whether it's in person, and what kind of things that we need to consider there. And the why is, what's the value? Why should they book? What's going to make them do that today? How urgent is it? Whether it's solving a problem, whether it's upskilling, whether it's doing something else. So yeah, those are kind of like top line things.
Awesome, awesome. And of course, Alex and I get very excited when we hear the woo part in there because that's a big part of what we do. What is the smallest event you've ever run?
So the smallest one is probably a retreat. I ran a business retreat earlier this year, for 12 people, and yeah, so that's probably the smallest one. It was amazing, really
Oh, I forget
good.
retreats are actually also events, aren't they?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah.
so
I
many
forgot
things.
that. And need the same amount of work, right?
No, sometimes even more because you can have personalized, you have may have a lot of personalization in a smaller one, right? If you've got an event of 100 people, you can have kind of generic setups or whatever. But if you've got 12 people, perhaps, I don't know, perhaps you need a lot more personalization to make each guest feel important and it like is an exclusive event for them, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah,
What do
no.
you
Well, it was more of a something that I was doing on the side because I really wanted to. It was something that I was testing in the marketplace, and I really wanted to make it kind of filled with value for each attendee. So I kind of had, sort of interview style almost discussions with each of them beforehand to make sure that it was a good fit, make sure that I was aware of what they wanted to get out of it, and make sure that it delivered on that. And then there was some accountability elements as well afterwards, once we've done all the mindset work and strategizing and marketing stuff. So it was really, really good. Lots of, yeah, lots of praise. So loved it.
Awesome. I'm busy with an event at the moment. Well, does it count? I think it does count an event. I'm working with a charity to deliver Christmas lunch to 200 people who would normally be alone for Christmas. And in my head, me and my kids would go volunteer to serve, right? Well, tick the box. But I went to the first meeting 2 days ago and just realized how much more there is, right? I think people you just you forget how much is actually involved in an event. So, you know, because it's a Christmas lunch, there's the cooking. Who's going to cook? Who's going to buy the food? Like someone has to physically go and buy the ingredients to
think?
get to the kitchen to do the cooking. And cooking for 200, I've not volunteered for that. My kids love my food, and that's about the level that I think I'll stop. Um, but then even most of these are seniors, so they won't be able to drive. They won't have. So just in terms of transport, how do they get to and from the venue? And because it's a charity, we need to supply that, right? And I think maybe transport is one that a lot of people don't think about with events. Like I know a lot of the big events make it at near major train stations or, and they say short walk, but sometimes people just forget that completely, and then the event is somewhere where it's impossible to get to. And then the
Yeah.
third one, which was also surprising, not surprising, I suppose if I'd thought about it, other than I'm going to serve some food, I would have figured it out. But is it's food. So there's allergies and and people can't eat dairy and people are allergic to nuts and all of a sudden what started off as just, oh, this is going to be so lovely is now a lot of work, right? Like, so now we need a list of from every person of what they can and can't eat, and because most of them are elderly, we need to actually double check with their carers or their um kids who why they're not with them on Christmas. That's a completely different question. Um, because if they've got dementia or something like that, they may not remember. So yeah, there's a lot in this event world, Ray. It's not just pitch up and serve some food.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, it's such a lovely thing to do, though. So well done for volunteering.
Yeah. Well, ask me again on the
Well,
26th.
yeah, I mean, Erica, you came to my mum's birthday,
I
70th
did.
birthday. So you're at fault for not realizing how much effort there goes into making food for lots of people because you were helping out in the kitchen with us.
I
And it's
stirred rice in a pot. I'm not sure that's considered helping out. And that was my introvert side saying, oh, I don't want to stand in a room full of people. Let me come and help and stir rice in a pot.
Kitchen is the best place to hide in, yes.
Yeah.
yeah.
No, but I mean that must have taken a lot of organization. I'm trying to think. There was that whole personal section, Alex, in the beginning with all the photos of your mom and all her friends and her family and her from when she was young. I mean, must have taken ages to think through, source all of those, set up. I didn't stay for
Yeah.
all the cleaning, so even taking it down again. I did wash some dishes, Ray. I didn't. I just
You
didn't.
did, you did.
Didn't
It worked
sweep
out.
at the end. I did leave before the final.
Well, always, like just like you said, in all events, there are something where you just look at it, you think, oh, that's good, but you don't really think about the work that went behind it. Because, for example, a lot of those photos, so this is just an example of what could happen in any other event, but in that particular example, there were lots of photos on the board, but they were all photos that my parents had on slides. But we didn't have like a slide converter or anything. So we had a slide machine and the screen. So what I did is I went through all the slides. And by the way, they've got like millions of slides and lots that are just rubbish, like photos of the grass by accident or something, you know. And I was in one of our rooms at home. Obviously, had to make it dark, and I had my camera in there, and I was taking photos of the photos,
Oh
and then
my
each
goodness.
of those, and then taking those onto a photography software to then make them look like a kind of normal photo, and then get them printed out and it was so
I didn't
just
even know that. I just
yeah.
saw this awesome thing and thought, oh, that took some work, but it took more than I thought.
Yeah, it takes so for example, if there's so many things that go behind, as I'm sure as you full well know, Ray, like the simple things can actually be really difficult. And I guess part of your job as an event organizer is when somebody says, I want this, want this, want this, is to kind of set expectations for some people because things aren't necessarily just as easy as they seem. There could be time restraints and that can have effect on budget. So is there quite a lot of, I don't know, expectation management? What's the word?
Management sounds like good.
Yeah,
Expectation management.
expectation management that you have to do in there. I mean, because maybe people aren't aware of the work that's required to do certain things.
Absolutely, yeah. So usually yeah, depends on the budget, of course. Everything drives from that. As soon as people say event in London, you could be looking at minimum £100 per head or on anything,
Yeah.
plus maybe even venue costs. So it just escalates very, very quickly. So you've got to really, really have a budget for it. And then sort of, yeah, the actual management and running of it after all those costs have been taken care of is also something that people have to allow for.
Give us an example, Ray, of like Alex and I have shared examples now of slightly difficult events, although Alex's is past and mine is still coming, so that's going to be interesting. What without obviously without sharing any names, what's been a most interest, let's use the word interesting, that's the safe word, interesting request you've had to deal with at an event?
Interesting because it could mean good or bad.
Exactly. It's a good word.
So this was a few years ago where I, pre-COVID, um, where I supported an exhibitor, because that's something else that I do as well, on the event planning side. And they had 80 square feet, so it was a mighty stand at the NEC in Birmingham. And they were supporting a charity that year, and it was a Speed of Sight charity, which was founded by a blind guy who was just fearless on the road or on the sea or wherever. He would just go fast whatever he was driving, he would just go
Did you
fast.
say a blind guy
Yes,
driving?
yes. He's a world record holder as well. Just like it's
Ah,
kind
but
of
not okay. I just imagined you mean he was driving on
no,
like
no.
normal
So
road.
he wasn't on the road, but he would drive a speed car or
Oh,
whatever and
okay.
just hit speed
Okay.
records basically. Um,
You had Alex very worried because he sees by driving.
Um, so the interesting thing was that we were trying to think of what we could do on the stand to get footfall. And one of the things that I ended up sorting was booking in a Stig because they were going to come with one of their specially made Caterham cars. Um,
You'd say booking in the Stig.
yeah, but it wasn't the official Stig, obviously.
We have to
And he
explain
had
that
to
to
be in
I,
branded colors
Georgia
as
doesn't
I
well.
know.
don't know what a stig is.
No, so
Oh
there's a
no.
TV show called
Um,
Top Gear, or there was
Top
a
Gear,
TV show
yeah.
I
called
know
Top
it's
Gear.
Top Gear.
Yeah,
Okay.
and they have a section in a sector in a segment, sorry, in the TV show where they test cars basically, or they'll race cars, and they have one guy called the Stig. You never see his face. He's always got a helmet on, and he's the benchmark for testing all the cars. So he's kind of the to keep it fair. Every single test they use him, and he is actually a famous person.
Yeah.
But no one knows who he is. But he's a famous race driver, but no one knows who he is. But everybody knows who he is at the same
Well,
time.
everyone knows the Stig, but actually, like who actually is
Yeah,
behind the
who
helmet, you
actually
don't
is the
know.
Stig?
Yeah, so
Ah.
we ended up having a Stig, but he had to be in blue outfit because that was the brand color of the company. And yeah, kind of blew up on Twitter. So that was a really fun campaign to run and manage and support. So getting a hold of a Stig, obviously sorting out the outfit, and then just seeing it really go down very well on the show days as well. So yeah, that was probably the most interesting. That just stays with me for years and
Did
years.
he arrive in the helmet?
He did arrive in the helmet. Yeah.
Did.
Yes.
Did you ever see him without the helmet?
I have, yeah.
Oh,
He got very hot in there.
Yeah, I'm sure he did.
He had to
I'm
go and
sure
have
he
a
did.
breather in like a couple of cupboards.
So what were your just talking about that event? Because I know Eric and I have talked about this for a few times before about what's the purpose of the event? How are you measuring the event? How do you understand the success for it? Because I mean, a lot of I guess one of the big mistakes that we've seen are people they go to an event and they often have brilliant graphics and brilliant materials and stuff, but then you come away from the event and you go, oh, okay, cool. So what did you achieve? How many signups? Blah blah blah. And I don't know. I have no idea. So I was just wondering, like maybe we can just use that event as an example, or you can use another event, or just in general. Are there any key measurement tools or KPIs or whatever that you think are very, very important to have in an event to measure the success of it and to use to analyze, to think about how I can make it better the next time, etc.
Really good question. Gosh, I could go on for hours on this, but um Yeah, so key metrics for me usually is look at like taking doing an audit or a review of the company's channels before the event activity takes place. So their size, their engagement levels, the kind of growth side of things. And then during the event, we kind of make it's part of the objective setting and sort of vision for the event. When we do the planning, we set out what are the objectives? What is it? Why do they want to get bums on seats? Why do they want people to come? And what is the company going to, or the business is going to benefit from? And so if we need to build in conversion numbers, like if we need to get through a certain number for them to then talk and make it really kind of sales orientated in terms of converting into projects and things afterwards, then we kind of take a note of what that would be, what would be a good place to end the event on. And then after the event has happened, we take a kind of a look of how far we've come from where we started. So looking at those review figures at the beginning, and also looking at the sort of the strategy element, and have the objectives being met, have the conference, whether it was the conversion, whether it was brand awareness or growth, whether it was like emphasizing connection, growing relationships, or encouraging relationships. There's loads of different motivations that a business might have to bring people together. So we kind of it goes in line with planning and kind of making sure the strategy is reflected in the strategy of it before we kind of get going with executing everything.
Absolutely. One of the things I've found most difficult is thinking about clever ways to actually get people's details. Obviously, some events will sell it to you. So if you've got deep pockets, you can just buy the list. Um, but and we've done some boring stuff, I guess, like stick your business card in a hat, works, and then what, lucky draw for a bottle of Prosecco at the end kind of stuff. What interesting mechanisms have you seen or used to actually get people's details, considering we're in the world of GDPR as well, right?
Absolutely. So on like an exhibition floor, the most fun one I usually try and incorporate is some form of a gamification. So gamifying the opportunity to exchange details. So I think I don't want to kind of go on the wrong side of anybody's, but really the day of dropping a business card into a goldfish bowl are over. No one likes to look through those cards at the end of the day, or when they go back into the office, they just lay there gathering dust. It's not a good way. It's not an efficient way of kind of meeting people. And also people want instant like connection or instant something dropping into their email. So really obviously scanning badges of people that come, or if they're at a conference, once they're through the door, you could say you could send something through like the agenda or something for the event if there isn't one printed. But the more sort of digital you can make it, the better. So going back to the gamification element, it gives a chance for them to take part in an activity, the delegates this is, gives you a chance to have potentially a salesperson next to them chatting, getting to know them, what's brought them there, what they're looking to get out of it, and finding out a bit more about the business. And then once they've had a game, you could drop their results of the game if it's a competitive kind of led element. You could into their inbox. You could follow up that game with some sort of a voice note or a video or something like that. So definitely, I think the less business cards goldfish bowls, the better. Like thinking outside of the box is definitely the way.
I
And
guess
sorry, Alex,
no, no, no.
Ray, you and I were at an event together recently, and they had the photo booth.
Yeah.
I'm two minds on the photo booth. How do you feel about photo booth as a way to collect data?
Oh, so I like them on the exhibition floor when there is like a frame. You know, you can sometimes get like one of those Polaroid frames that have got branding and maybe a hashtag of something. So I quite like them, and but you've got to really make it worthwhile for people to do that whole selfie or take a photo and then tag me and things like that. You've got to really make it worthwhile or fun for them to do. So I don't know that that's engaging enough anymore. Um, in the event that we attended, I quite liked, but it's not really a data that wasn't really for data gathering purposes, I suppose.
No.
Um, but in terms of putting it on social, like taking a photo and putting it on social, I think that's brilliant way to get people engaged. And as long as there is somebody like a marketeer, kind of following up on those connections and following up on those interactions, because it's so easy to just let the hashtag of an event go without really following up on everything, because there's loads of opportunity. You know, you can follow up anyone that's shared your event that they've just been to, or been tagged in something, follow up with a conversation, follow up with some sort of a value add element, and start the conversation to bring in the sales guys potentially in the future.
But I guess it also, boils down to your audience, because if it was like an insurance event and they were all just like really old white men just walking around, they might not want to do like a, a photo booth or an Instagram thing. But if it was like an event for young teenage girls or something, and they had their favorite, I don't know what it was, product or star or something that's really trendy, then maybe they would love to share with their friends saying, look where I am, look and da 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 da, and that could work. So,
Yeah, no,
always
there's
boils
definitely
down to
there's
the who.
yeah, definitely opportunities in either way, but you should definitely consider the audience that are there. I definitely agree with that, Alex. Yeah, another thing that you could obviously do AI or some sort of VR elements as well. Like there's loads of technology that you can sort of make use of, I suppose, to bring the contact details or bring the people to you.
Absolutely.
Fabulous. So, Ray, for our listeners, what are your top three or four, if you like, three tips if anyone is thinking about an event? Anything you want to end with?
Top three things. I mean, we talked about the audience a lot already today, but yeah, definitely think about who it's for. What is the value of the event that you're creating, that you want to run, and why should I come? That's probably the three things that you most certainly need to consider before running it. And then making sure you know who is going to do all the different parts, whether it's organizing, whether it's marketing, whether it's planning, strategizing, reviewing. So select your who's.
Fantastic. And Ray, if anyone is thinking about an event and wants to get hold of you, how do they do that?
So my website is force number 4 events.co.uk, force4events.co.uk. And people can connect with me on LinkedIn or Facebook or even Instagram, but I'm mostly on LinkedIn. Yeah.
Fantastic. Alex, anything, any last tips from you?
No, I think maybe just always have those important questions, the who, what, why, where, how. When thinking about doing an event, it's important to understand those and not just aimlessly do an event without any purpose just because I want to do an event.
Fantastic. And I will look forward to telling you both how my event went, if it was an absolute disaster or we had a happy Christmas. Thank you so much, Ray. It's been wonderful having you on board.
Thank
Great
you, Ray.
chatting as always, Alex, and we will see you again soon.
Thank you so much, both. Bye.
Thank you. That wraps up this episode of Giraffes Don't Eat Steak. Thanks for joining us. I hope you found value in our discussion and got some new ideas to apply to your own business. Tune in next week for another round of marketing insights and inspiration. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave us a review and subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. We appreciate you listening. Catch you next time on Giraffes Don't Eat Steak.